Hi, and welcome to my channel, Laura's Library Card. So this video is going to be my October wrap-up, stats, and summary for the month. I don't really have time to film. I have to get to work soon, and I also don't really have time to edit. So we're gonna try to just like do this all in one, mistakes and all. Do I think she can do it? No, but I'm gonna try. So let's just get started. Overall, in October, I read 8 books, which was a total of 3,041 pages. I did read good chunks of other books. Those are honorable mentions. Those will be at the end. Interestingly, it was split 4 and 4, male versus female presenting authors. And I just kind of looked at author pictures for guessing at their races, and so there were 6 white appearing authors and 2 POC. Overall, my average rating was a 3.43. That is sort of my own personal scale. I kind of rate things with like a point, like a 2.4 or something, kind of stars for myself. So what books did I read? I'm going to try to not ramble too much. Let's go. The first book that I finished in October was Such a Fun Age by Reid. I read this for a book club that I am in that used to be in person and just has gone digital last month or 2 months ago. And so that was what I read this book for. I listened to it on audio. Such a Fun Age is, we follow two points of view. There's sort of 3 main characters, and the whole book deals with sort of race issues and really examines like what the role of sort of like well-meaning liberal white people are playing when they're really still being like a white savior. And we follow Amira, who's a babysitter, and her employer, and who's black, and then we follow her employer, Alix, who's white, and then there is a man who doesn't have his own point of view in the book, but is sort of the third main character, and he is white and is connected to Amira's present and Alix's past. And so the book is, I enjoyed it. I ultimately rated Such a Fun Age like a 3.7. Like I said, it has to do with sort of like these, like the role of this like white savior and how both Kelly and Alix are trying to like help or protect Amira, even though she doesn't need or want that. And really, they just kind of ultimately make her life harder. So it was definitely an interesting read. I felt like it brought up a lot of good topics, but ultimately I didn't really feel like it like packed the kind of punch that I really was hoping for. And I felt like the end somehow, like just because of how it ended, I was kind of like disappointed retroactively in the characterization of one of our main characters. I'll just kind of leave it at that. Don't want to be too spoilery. And I said I rated it a 3.7. So essentially a 4-star. The next book that I read is one of the tops of the month, which was Theft of Sapphire by Joseph Daniel. I read this as a buddy read with my cousin Nicole from See Nicole Read. I will link her channel down in the description and link the discussion video for Theft of Sapphire up in the cards and in the description. So this was Nicole's choice. We've been doing kind of a back and forth buddy reads, sort of almost like a monthly book club or every few weeks. And it was really cute. It sort of like rides the line between middle grade and YA for me. I sort of feel like it's a little more middle grade, but it's this young, cute story. It's a fantasy. We follow Judah as our main character. He's a genie. This is a world of granting wishes and magic. But Judah is studying to take his like wish granting exam, and he is having a lot of stressors in his life because he has this exam coming up, and also his parents are missing for a couple of years now. His siblings are in danger of losing their house because they can't afford it. So he has sort of like serious stressors in his life, but this is still a very like lighthearted adventure story. I've enjoyed this. I was pulled right along. I felt like it was really fast paced, and to me, the strength of Theft of Sapphire was really in the author's writing. I felt like the author had a very distinctive voice. Not that I would compare that voice to Lemony Snicket's voice, but that like Lemony Snicket has such a strong like authorial voice and tone that really like sets the tone for the story. And I felt like in his own style, Joseph Daniel did that as well. And it was very clear to me that he loves like wordplay and puns, because that was a lot of what was all over this book. And that is something that I really enjoy. So I really enjoyed the writing. And ultimately, I gave Theft of Sapphire 4 stars. And some people, there's not that many reviews. It's kind of not very well known. But there were some comparisons to Harry Potter. And I think that's like a smidgen grandiose in saying that this is like the next Harry Potter. But like there were definitely comparisons. And then it was like, you know, a young person who's magical, coming of age. Judah's family to me was very reminiscent of the Weasley family. So I really enjoyed Theft of Sapphire. The third book that I read was my lowest of the month, which was The Lost Girls of Paris by Pam Jenoff. So this was a book club choice for a different book, you know, in life, real life book club that I belong to. And I listened to the audiobook on this, and I just would not recommend. I did not enjoy this audiobook. I actually started this book in February or March. I got like a fair bit. Like I got like a solid 30 to 40% of the way through and was just like not interested at that time, which is weird because it's like women in Paris, like spies for World War II. I was like, this sounds really cool. But like to me, the writing is not that good. The writing is actually really clunky. The whole story is full of plot holes. None of our characters is interesting. We have 3 points of view of 3 different women, and they just like were so flat. They had no like motivations. They were completely uninteresting. The potentially most interesting character of Marie, who is the spy, Marie was just such an idiot. Basically, I just like ranted about this at the book club, and no one else had really even read it. There was only one other person who'd read it, and he was like, "Oh, I really liked it," and I was like, "Why? Why?" And then he was just like, "Well, I can't really remember it very well, but I was entertained," and I was just like, "Well, I was not." So I just would not recommend this book, and I just didn't think it was very good. So I ultimately rated The Lost Girls of Paris as a like 1.7. The next book so the next book on the list is Hood Feminism, Notes from the Women That a Movement Forgot by Mikki, Kendall. I started listening to this book, and then I switched over to the ebook because I wanted to make highlights and stuff. And also, I didn't think the narration was like top notch. When I was making this list, I was like, oh, I don't like. I was like, oh yeah, I remember the part where it was about da 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 da, and then I was like, well, I didn't actually have like an end date written in Goodreads, and I was like, this is kind of weird. And so I went and looked, and I was like, I don't have an end date posted at all. This is kind of weird. And then I actually just checked the book back out. Like the ebook was instantly available from the library, and when I opened it, it went straight to 87%. So I guess I never technically finished this. I think what happened was I had the ebook and was reading it, and then it expired and disappeared. And then like the next time I like went to get it, I was like, oh, I must be done. So I'm counting it, even though I didn't technically finish it, because I now have the ebook, and I'm just going to finish that last like 13% today or tomorrow. But I enjoyed Hood Feminism. It is a nonfiction book that discusses feminism for minorities, specifically Black women most of the time, and how there are still issues that are facing women, you know, in these minorities and across the board, that are really feminist issues, and not just like I mean, they're people issues, but they're also feminist issues because there are women suffering or struggling with these issues. And those are, you know, the fetishization of, you know, being fierce and sort of Black culture being monetized, and yet Black people are not really like recognized for that. And there was a chapter about, you know, going hungry. There was chapters, oh right, about like the missing and murdered girls and how that's like proportionally higher. So I enjoyed Hood Feminism, and I hope to finish it to wrap up that book, but I have it on my list because I read most of it. And next was The Rogue of Fifth Avenue by Joanna Shupe. This was the Book Refuge's historical romance choice for the month. And I will link to her live show up in the cards and down in the description. I listened to this book. Did I listen to this book? Yes, I listened to this book. It is the first book in the Uptown Girls series, and I enjoyed it. It was a good read for me. There were some plot holes. There was a little bit of inconsistencies, but for the most part, I was just kind of like la 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 la, like enjoying it. And then when we went to the book or when I attended the live show or tuned in, everyone I think was like a smidgen harsh on it. Everyone was like, it was good, but. And I was like, okay, guys, like I've read plenty of other books romance books that have been kind of like had more weak premises and tension. But I also, when I was making this list, have very little memory of this book. I had to like go like totally like look up their names and stuff. So I was like, well, this doesn't bode well for the old, you know, for maintaining a memory or making an impact. And I do ultimately feel like there was sort of logic and plot issues, as I just mentioned. I felt like the book maybe was going in a different direction or had a different plot, and then like at the last minute the author's like, well, let's make it do this instead. And so like a lot of the book got reworked, but like that made things make less sense. I don't know. So ultimately I enjoyed The Rogue of Fifth Avenue. I want to continue with more Joanna Shupe. I heard that the later books in the Uptown Girls series are good, and also I know a bunch of other people liked her Knickerbocker series. There might be more words to that series. And I rated Rogue of Fifth Avenue 3.5 stars. All right, 3 left. I listened to The Only Plane in the Sky, An Oral History of 9/11, which is by author Garrett M. Graff. I listened to this on audiobook. I like nonfiction occasionally, and I had 2 this month, 2 out of 8. So that was kind of a higher proportion. This book, The Only Plane in the Sky, I was listening to it on audio, and it has a cast of like 40 plus people. So that really drove home. It's a collection of oral histories, of stories of where people were and what they were doing. And it's told in chronological order of like the day. So we kind of jump around geographically, but I enjoyed this because it was really clear at any like moment what that person was like thinking and what they knew at that like time during the day. And I really felt like I learned a lot more that I didn't know about 9/11, and I really enjoyed that there was a good amount of page time for the plane that went down in Pennsylvania, and also for the plane that hit Pentagon, because I mean, I think like the most lives were lost and the biggest tragedy was both of the towers in New York City, but I appreciated that we got viewpoints from all of the sites. And there were archival recordings in this audiobook, so there were actual like recordings for the air control towers, and I think of 1 or 2 of like the like emergency phone calls and stuff. So those were like very emotional. I don't want to say that I was like I was kind of surprised by like how like gripping and like evocative I found this book for myself, just because I was like, wow, this is like a thing that happened, but like I was young, and so it really impacted me while I was listening to this, and I was like at work, and I was like, maybe I should stop listening to this so that I'm not like trying not to cry at work. But I would really recommend. I really enjoyed this book. My only kind of downside, which I guess I like it's not a fault in any way. It was just that at the end of the book, it was like, all right, the last like 10 or 15% is like, so the next day and that week and that month. And it really doesn't like talk more about like what has happened since 9/11. We didn't really get very much of like the next day or like rescue efforts or cleanup efforts or anything. So to some extent I kind of like wanted a little bit more of that, but for the most part, it was very interesting, very evocative, very powerful book about the day of 9/11 and what happened. So ultimately, I gave The Only Plane in the Sky a solid 4 stars. I don't know how to rate nonfiction. I feel like I learned stuff, I enjoyed it, I was emotional, so like it was good. Last 2 books. So second to last is The Shadows by Alex North. This was the Page Turner Book Club's choice for October. I will leave a link to their live show up in the cards and down in the description. This is a British crime thriller story. I actually read this book aloud to my husband and we kind of vlogged as we went. So that's coming soon. Keep an eye out for it. This book has sort of an element of like the occult or paranormal, and like what does that have to do with the murders that have happened. We follow multiple points of view as like the detective and a person who was on the periphery of the murders like 25 years ago and is sort of dealing with his own shit in the current time. So we actually have 2 points of view from the same person, but it's like him at 15 and him now. I've learned that when I read aloud, I don't really retain that much. So I feel like the details are kind of fuzzy on this, but the vlog is coming soon and I enjoyed the live show. Ultimately, everyone kind of concluded that like while it was a page turner and that I wanted to just keep going and I was enjoying being pulled along and I was enjoying being like, I think it's this. Oh, I think it's this. Oh, maybe this is what happened. I was sort of kept guessing. There were like almost like too many twists and turns. And there was a lot of sort of confusion and ultimately the like whodunit resolution at the end didn't feel very satisfying for me. So, and I think a lot of people in the live show sort of agreed with that. So ultimately I rated The Shadows as a 3.5 and keep an eye out for that vlog. Last book that I finished in October was A Beautifully Foolish Endeavor by Hank Green. This was the second book in the Carl series. I listened to this on audio. It has multiple points of view. We follow characters from the first book. It's sort of a continuation of their story. There's a lot of action. There's sort of a lot of plot development. I felt like I enjoyed the multiple points of view part and I was happy to kind of dive back in and hear more about this story. I was intrigued. I do feel like this book pushed a lot more of a message than the first book, and that message was very like internet and big tech companies and like danger to humanity and what like are we moving too fast technology wise, which I think was very interesting as a theme and something to think about and talk about. But also I was like, I'm here for the like aliens, let's go. So I enjoyed the book, but overall I felt like it was just sort of like a 3.2, and I was like, okay, well, I'm glad this is, it very definitively wrapped up, and I was glad about that part. So yeah, so those are the 8 books that I read in October. 2 honorable mentions are The Honey Don't List by Christina Lauren. I read 71% of this book in October and September because I just kept forgetting it existed. While I was reading it, I was like, this is fine, this is good, I'm enjoying this. And then I would walk away and I would like forget to come back to it. And it was just, they would go like 3 weeks and I'd be like, oh yeah, I have this book. So I still technically haven't finished it yet, but I'm honorably mentioning it here. And then I also read most of The Dragon Reborn by Robert Jordan, which I don't have, it's out on my desk. I read 72 or 3% of this in October. I might have read a little bit, the first little chunk in September. And then I read the last like 25% and finished it on November 1st. So you'll get to see that in November. But that is because I'm participating in a Wheel of Time read along and I really enjoyed that book. So yeah, that was my October wrap up and sort of stats and what I did for the month. I sort of feel, probably no one's made it to this far in this video. I sort of feel like recently I've had a lot on my plate, personal wise, just like I have a job, I have, I need to get enough sleep to do that job. I'm trying to like keep up on BookTube, and I've been putting a lot of like pressure on myself to read a certain amount or make a certain amount of content or like put content out X frequently, whatever. So other than the readathon that I am co-hosting in November, which is the Love in the Night readathon, and it will be taking place November 8th through the 14th, which you should totally participate in. I plan to make a lot of content around that and be very active that second week of November, and then I think I'm going to just be like dead and I'm going to kind of take a break for the rest of November. Not that I won't make videos, but just I feel like here in the last few weeks I've been putting so much pressure on myself to read and to make content that I am not enjoying the content. And like I said, for October, like 4 or 5 of these books were books that I've read like as buddy reads or for book clubs, and like that's great because I really love having discussions with people about the books that I read, but also like that those are books that like I wasn't choosing for myself, and that like I want to make sure that I'm still enjoying reading and still like I'm not like reading to make the content. I am reading because I love it and I'm reading what I want to read, and then like the content that I make just happens to sort of be a byproduct as I gush about what I'm reading. So November might be, and sort of the rest of the year, I'm just trying to make a new like mindset of how I want to kind of run my booktube channel, because I want to make content, but I want it to be about the books that I'm enjoying reading, and I want to enjoy the reading, and I want to enjoy the making of content. I don't want to feel like, well, crap, like I have to get another video out this week. Some weeks there'll be 2 or 3 videos, and some weeks there'll be 1. I'm still going to try to consistently upload on Tuesdays, but if I miss one, I miss one. You know, I don't really care about the growth part. I feel like I've already like made the connections that I'm most likely to really like stick with through booktube, and I just don't know how many more like friendships and stuff I can maintain. So, I mean, I'm not like closed off to more friendships. I just mean that my content might be more sporadic going forward. Thank you so much for listening to this video. If you read any of the books that I mentioned in this video, or if you have any other suggestions for a Joanna Shupe book or another crime thriller book that maybe was a little bit better, leave those down in the comments. Thank you so much for watching this video. Don't forget to like and subscribe to my channel, blah, 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 blah. Even though I just said I don't care about my subscriber count. But that's all from me, and I gotta go to work. Bye.